America's Native Spirit, Uncorking the Story. Welcome back to our series on the history of bourbon. Today, in our 5th episode, we are diving deep into the heart of America's native spirit. Bourbon is more than just a drink. It's a story steeped in the very soil of the United States. It is a type of American whiskey, a barrel-aged distilled spirit made primarily from corn. The name itself is believed to derive from Bourbon County, Kentucky. As we journey through its history, we'll see how this spirit has become intertwined with the nation's identity, evolving from a frontier necessity into a globally celebrated icon of American craftsmanship. Before we get into the specifics, let's look at a simple preview of the timeline we'll be exploring. Our story begins in the late 1700s, with the first waves of settlers moving into what would become Kentucky. It then moves through the 19th century, a period of massive growth and industrialization that saw the rise of legendary distilleries. We will then navigate the turbulent waters of the 20th century, from the dark days of Prohibition to the incredible modern bourbon boom we see today. Each era brought its own challenges, innovations, and iconic figures, all of which have shaped the whiskey in your glass. To truly understand bourbon, we have to understand what defines it. The United States government has laid out specific rules. By law, bourbon must be made in the United States. Its mash bill must be at least 51% corn. It must be aged in new charred oak containers. It must be distilled to no more than 160 proof. It must enter the barrel at no more than 125 proof. It must be bottled at 80 proof or more. These regulations ensure a standard of quality and character. Of course, the origins of bourbon are a subject of spirited debate. Many point to the Baptist minister Elijah Craig, who is often credited with being the first to age his whiskey in charred oak barrels around 1789. Others argue the practice evolved more gradually among many early Kentucky distillers. While the exact moment is shrouded in legend, something special began to happen in the hills of Kentucky. It was a unique combination of corn, limestone filtered water, charred oak. Our journey through time, dates, distilleries, and legends. In this episode, our goal is to cut through the myths and focus on the hard facts. We are going to expose the icons of bourbon by examining the dates, the people, and the distilleries. We will explore the founding moments of distilleries whose names are now legendary, like Buffalo Trace, Jim Beam, Old Forester. We'll connect these places to the historical figures who walked their grounds and the specific years that marked their most significant milestones. This is a story of pioneers, entrepreneurs, families who dedicated their lives to perfecting their craft over generations. Throughout the video, you will see fact cards pop up on the screen. These cards will highlight crucial dates, key figures, important legal changes. For example, when we discuss the early days, you might see a fact card for 1792, Kentucky statehood, or 1795, Jacob Beam's first barrel. This method will help you build a mental timeline and connect the dots between events and people, making bourbon's complex history easier to follow. This episode is designed for our YouTube format, aiming for a concise yet comprehensive 15-minute exploration. We know your time is valuable, so we've structured our story to be engaging and packed with information without being overwhelming. We want you to walk away with a solid understanding of the key moments that defined bourbon's history. From the influence of early Scotch-Irish immigrants to the impact of the Civil War and the transformative era of Prohibition, we'll cover the essential chapters in bourbon's epic tale. So, get ready to travel back in time. We'll trace the lineage of the great distilling families. We'll uncover the origins of your favorite brands. We'll learn how historical events shape the whiskey we enjoy today. This isn't just a history lesson, it's an expose of the dates, legends, and distilleries that form the very backbone of bourbon. By the end of this episode, you'll have a new appreciation for the rich heritage behind every single pour. Let's begin our journey into the heart of bourbon country and uncover the stories that have been waiting for centuries to be told. The grain of a nation colonial roots. Our story begins not in Kentucky but further east, in the original American colonies. Before bourbon existed, early settlers were primarily farmers, and their survival depended on the crops they could grow. Grains like rye, wheat, and barley were common, But corn, a crop native to the Americas, proved to be exceptionally resilient and abundant. However, farmers soon discovered that they often had more corn than they could eat, sell, or store before it spoiled. The answer to this surplus was distillation. For colonial farmers, turning excess corn and other grains into whiskey was a matter of pure economic sense. Whiskey did not spoil, and it served multiple purposes in colonial life. It was used as medicine, a social lubricant, and a form of currency on the frontier. This early American whiskey was not the bourbon we know today. It was a raw, unaged spirit, often harsh and fiery, commonly referred to as white dog. It was so integral to the frontier economy that when the new United States government, under Alexander Hamilton, imposed a whiskey tax in 1791, it sparked a violent uprising, setting the stage for whiskey's central role in America's westward expansion. The Scotch-Irish wave distilling comes to the frontier. Among the most influential groups were the Scotch-Irish. They began arriving in America in large numbers during the 18th century. They brought with them generations of distilling expertise honed in their homelands of Scotland and Ireland. Pragmatic and adaptable, they adopted corn as they pushed west. As government pressures like the whiskey tax mounted in the East, many of these Scotch-Irish families packed up their belongings, including their precious copper stills, and headed west. Their destination was a vast and promising wilderness that the native tribes called Kentucky. This mass migration would prove to be the single most important event in the genesis of bourbon, as it concentrated America's most experienced distillers in the very place that held all the right ingredients. As settlers poured over the mountains into the Kentucky Territory in the late 1700s, they discovered a distiller's paradise. Even more importantly, Kentucky sat atop a massive bed of limestone. The water that flowed through this limestone shelf was naturally filtered, stripping it of harsh-tasting iron and enriching it with calcium and other minerals. With Kentucky achieving statehood in 1792, fact card, 1792, Kentucky statehood. The new state government actively encouraged settlement by offering pioneers 60 acres of land if they agreed to build a permanent structure and grow native corn. In 1795, a German-American farmer named Johannes Jacob Behm sold his first barrel of whiskey. While he could not have known it then, he was laying the groundwork for a distilling dynasty that would survive Prohibition, world wars, and changing tastes. His policies, such as the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, opened up the mighty Mississippi River, creating a vital trade route for Kentucky distillers to ship their barrels south to bustling markets like New Orleans. The legend holds that in 1789, Craig was the first to age his corn whiskey in oak barrels that had been charred on the inside. The reason for the charring is part of the myth. Charred them to purify the wood and remove any lingering odors. Regardless of how it happened, the result was transformative. This was the key innovation that separated this new Kentucky whiskey from the clear, unaged spirits that had come before it. The early 1800s marked a pivotal shift for Kentucky's distillers. The months-long voyage became part of the aging process. Unloaded in New Orleans, the whiskey was no longer clear white dog. They asked for that whiskey from Bourbon County. The name stuck. The steamboat's arrival in the 1810s revolutionized river trade. Kentucky was integrated into the national economy, cementing its place as America's whiskey epicenter. The 1820s and 1830s, often called the Age of Jackson, whiskey consumption hit an all-time high during his presidency. That cultural acceptance fueled an explosion in demand, pushing Kentucky's distillers to scale up. One major innovation was the column still, patented by Aeneas Coffey in 1830. Another key figure was Dr. James C. Crowe, a Scottish physician and chemist who brought scientific rigor to distilling. He perfected the sour mash process, protected the mash from wild bacteria, and delivered consistent flavor batch to batch. The Oscar Pepper site is now Woodford Reserve. The American Civil War was a cataclysmic event that had a profound impact on the bourbon industry. Production collapsed as men left, and essential supplies like grain and copper were requisitioned. It was also used in medicine, an antiseptic to clean wounds and a painkiller during battlefield surgery. The war severed the trade routes. The Union blockade prevented shipments downriver to New Orleans. Distillers turned to new markets in the rapidly industrializing cities of the North and helped turn it into a national spirit. After the conflict, the industry faced a long recovery. The post-war era birthed powerful distilling families and brands that would define the Gilded Age of bourbon. The late 19th century, known as the Gilded Age, railroad networks expanded dramatically, connecting Kentucky's distilleries to every corner of the country. However, this rapid growth came with a serious problem: quality control. Unscrupulous dealers would often dilute the real bourbon. In 1870, a pharmaceutical salesman turned whiskey merchant named George Garvin Brown had a revolutionary idea, selling it exclusively in sealed glass bottles. Brown's innovation was a precursor to an even more significant development: the Bottled-in-Bond Act of 1897. To earn the Bottled-in-Bond designation, a whiskey had to be the product of one distiller from one distilling season, aged for at least 4 years in a federally supervised warehouse, and bottled at exactly 100 proof. This act helped clean up the industry, gave consumers confidence, and elevated the status of bourbon. On January 17, 1920, the 18th Amendment went into effect, ushering in the era of Prohibition. The nationwide ban was catastrophic for the bourbon industry. Hundreds of distilleries were forced to shut their doors. However, the noble experiment did not eliminate America's thirst for whiskey. It merely drove it underground. A small and fortunate handful found a legal loophole. This loophole was medicinal whiskey. Only 6 Kentucky distilleries were granted federal licenses to continue bottling existing stocks of bourbon for medicinal purposes. The infrastructure of the industry crumbled, and their generational knowledge was at risk of being lost forever. On December 5, 1933, the 21st Amendment was ratified, officially repealing Prohibition. The Beam family, led by James B. Jim Beam, in just 120 days rebuilt his family's distillery in Claremont, Kentucky. In 1935, on Derby Day, the Stitzel-Weller Distillery was opened in Louisville. This distillery would become iconic. Another major player to emerge in this period was Heaven Hill. Founded in 1935 in Bardstown, they were not just selling a product, they were reviving a culture. The decades following World War II can be seen as the era of the mid-century masters. Bourbon became a quintessential part of American life. Maker's Mark, introduced in 1958 with its signature red wax seal, became staples on back bars. By the late 1960s, bourbon's popularity began to wane dramatically. Sales plummeted, leading to what is now known as the bourbon glut. Warehouses were overflowing with barrels of aging whiskey that no one wanted to buy. This period was just as devastating for the industry as Prohibition. The famed Stitzel-Weller Distillery, for example, shut down in 1992. The turnaround began in the late 1980s. Master distillers like Elmer T. Lee began hand-selecting individual barrels. This led to the creation of the first modern single-barrel bourbons. Brands like Blanton's, introduced in 1984, played a key role. The internet played a crucial role, allowing small groups of passionate whiskey enthusiasts to connect. The Pappy Van Winkle craze of the early 2000s saw old stocks of Stitzel-Weller bourbon become the world's most sought-after whiskey. Inspired by this top-shelf boom, a new wave of entrepreneurs began to enter the industry, leading to the craft distillery movement. In 1999, the Kentucky Distillers Association officially established the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, a world-renowned tourist destination. Section 1. The Enduring Spirit, a Legacy in Every Bottle. Our journey through the history of bourbon has taken us across more than 2 centuries of American history. Its story is one of resilience, a constant cycle of boom, bust, and rebirth. The story of bourbon is fundamentally a story of people: farmers, chemists, entrepreneurs, marketers. So, The next time you pour a glass of bourbon, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey it represents. This enduring spirit continues to evolve, yet it remains firmly rooted in its storied past. If you enjoyed this journey through bourbon history, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment with your favorite bourbon fact, and subscribe for more episodes. We'll see you next time.